Hello, 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 hello.
Hello, everyone.
A warm good morning to our dignitaries, board members, speakers, participants, and fellow audience. We welcome you all to the second day of Global Conference on IoT M2M. We have a series of engaging technical sessions lined up for today. We have amongst us various experts who will be sharing their experience on smart cities, IoT security, and IoT use cases using AI and other technologies. We are also exhibiting IoT products and solutions at stalls outside which can be visited during breaks. Without taking much time, we would like to start our first technical session for today on topic transforming cities. I would like to invite Sri Rahul Kapoor, Director, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, to deliver his talk on Plan for Standards-Based Smart Cities Implementation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Very good morning, everyone. I think I'm coming to this beautiful campus after quite some time. That was in 2019 in the last conference that I could attend. And it's always wonderful to come inside. Once you pass the traffic of Delhi and come into this green, beautiful space, I think it's a different world altogether. So very, very happy to be here. And of course, the topic for today that I would be talking about is on standards-based smart cities implementation. Now, it has been close to 7 years since the smart cities mission was first announced. And today we see that 100 smart cities, they have gone through the journey and gone through the learning curve. And a lot of insights have come through this implementation of technology, implementation of non-technology interventions in cities. And what we see today is we are at a very important juncture, an important juncture where these learnings have the potential for scale up because when you look at the context of India, it's not 100 cities we are talking about. We have close to more than 4,800 plus urban local bodies. And I think what we do here in this mission will have a very important impact, or a very significant impact on how we look at urban transformation in the future. Why it's important? Got it. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I was pressing it down here. So why is it so important? You know, this is the century of cities. And just to give you a world context, and if you look at the history of urban or history of the civilization and how the world has become more and more populated and how the demographics have changed over the last couple of centuries. In the year 1800, the world was 1 billion people. And if you looked at the most populous city that time, it was Beijing with a population of 1.1 million. And only 3% of the population was urban. Come to the year 1900, the population grew marginally by 1.2 billion. And we were 15% urban at that point of time. So in 100 years, only 12% increase in the urban population. And that time, the most popular city was, of course, the city of London at 6.6 million. 2000, another 100 years, the world population became 6.5 billion. And we had close to 47% of the people living in urban areas. And certainly this transformation started getting pace. And Tokyo at 26.4 million in that year. Today, it's close to 38 million. Delhi itself is 26 million. By 2006, we crossed 50% of the world population was living in cities. And these are the projections that by 2050, nearly 2/3 of the world will be living in cities. So what does it mean? It means that there will be an increased demand for improved standards of living, better healthcare, be it better education, jobs to meet the large-scale demographic transition across the world, especially in the urban areas. And this with the change in technologies, the emerging technologies that are coming up, how it will lead to the growth of cities, that is going to be a very, very important factor that we'll need to look into. And what are the opportunities for us as a country? Today, we have nearly 34% of the people living in cities, which by 2030, we are expecting that the population of urban will touch close to 40%. We will be generating nearly 70% of employment in cities. Already, cities are contributing 65% to the GDP of the country. So that's why they say that cities are the engines of growth. And it's very, very true for India. So unless you give this an importance, because see, primarily post-independence, our focus was always on the rural sector. We were primarily an agrarian economy. And though the urban population has increased to 34%, still, it is not considered the most important sector, but look at its contribution to GDP, like I said, nearly 65%. And with the potential of what was projected in 2010, that 3.5 times the GDP will be through urban sectors. That's the increase that is going to happen from 2010 to 2030. And the amount of tax revenues, the contribution to the economy, it becomes very, very important that we have a very clear urban transformation strategy so as to not go through the challenges that some of the countries face, the perils of urbanization that we face. A lot of countries started industrializing or becoming urban around the same time. There were certain African nations, Nigeria, the level of urbanization that it has today is significantly high, but also the kind of challenges, the chaos, the congestions that you see there as compared to the cities in the Southeastern Asian continent. There also, they became urban around the same time, same levels of urbanization, but different growth stories altogether. So you have to get the urban story right. And that is why the vision for cities has to be one that focuses on improving the ease of living of the people. Cities that are able to connect the communities. So it's all about people at the end of the day. So when we are talking about building better roads or building better buildings or making grand designs, that is not why cities are. I mean, these are means. The whole objective has to be the citizen, the person in focus. You and I, when we want to decide on a city that we would want to live in, probably these are the most important factors that we select. One is the quality of life that the city is able to give to us by way of clean air, by way of better healthcare, education, safer roads, a safe street, by way of giving us job opportunities. The reason that all of you are here in this city and not maybe in a smaller town, or maybe all of us have come from different parts of the country, a lot of people who are migrant population in Delhi as well. The reason we are here is because it provides us economic opportunities. So economic opportunities is a very important factor that cities gives us. Sustainability, how important a factor that is. The whole need for clean air. I am sure many of us must be thinking at some point of time after living in Delhi, especially during the months of November and December, that should we move out or move to another city just because the air is not so clean. So it's very important to improve these factors. Building in smart governance to achieve better livability for our citizens. That's the vision that we need to have for urban. And building in resilience with regard to the man-made disasters or natural disasters. So when a pandemic like COVID strikes, how ready is your city with regard to the healthcare infrastructure, with regard to availability of beds, oxygen, all those things, and how technology and governance can both be combined in a very holistic manner. When the Smart Cities mission was started, the objective was, of course, twofold. One was focusing on area-based development. With 100 cities getting selected, the idea was that let's build lighthouses. Let us build projects that can become replicable and scalable models that can be demonstrated across the country. So first, it started with the whole idea of how do you define a smart cities and the whole definition of what is smart. Many times I'm asked this question, okay, have we become smart? Which is a smart city? I mean, if you really think about it, think of the history of civilization again, go back maybe to the Stone Age or Paleolithic Age, and think of that man sitting with the rocks which he has carved out as a tool just to hunt better, to started inventing the wheel. Do you think that guy was smart during that point of time? Or maybe even 100 years back, when radio waves experiments were starting to happen. I mean, were those people smart? Or think of maybe 20 years back, you did not have, probably smartphone penetration did not happen at that scale and probably mobile penetration was not so high. But were people smart during that point of time? Somebody living in Japan or somebody living in the city of New York, were they smart people? Or somebody living in the city of Goa who's having fantastic quality of life, clean air, has got a good job because the tourism industry is thriving? Is he a smart person? Or when we talk about today, or maybe the future, maybe 30 years back. So when you see the whole definition of smartness, it's always going to be very, very context specific to the times of that, the technology of that time. And that's why it is not going to be an end state that when you become smart. It is a process. See, at any given point of time, at any given period, across regions, people will be at different levels of what you may define as smartness, but then it's on how best you use the technology of that time to your code context. And that's what smartness is all about. So when we talk about Smart Cities mission, the idea was to basically improve the capability of your cities to imbibe whatever is the technology of that time, and then make it in such a way that lives of people becomes better, cities become better, they become more livable. And that's what the focus was on, area-based development, to basically focus on both infrastructure project, technology projects to improve livability, and pan-city development by way of citywide smart solutions. And this is where we come, because we are all here, most of us are from the technical domain here, excluding me. Integrated command and control centers. You've heard about it, how IoT devices, sensors getting deployed across cities, be it in solid waste management, be it in water or sewerage management, energy management. And all this combining to an investment of close to $2 billion that is happening in India today. With the 100 cities, an investment of $28 billion or 205,000 crores was envisaged under the mission, impacting the lives of 100 million people in these 100 cities. But the idea was always very clear. Let us learn how to do more from less. Let us learn to bring in affordable excellence by way of doing things that are the best practices, the benchmarks in the industry, but also affordable because we are a value economy. Let us do things in a more sustainable manner and do things that become scalable and replicable across the country. That's what this 100 Smart Cities mission was all about. And why is the need for standards? Because we don't want each of the 100 cities to go through the learning curve afresh, to invent the wheel for themselves. Today, this is the reality of India, that in most of the departments, be it at the central level, state level, or the city level, and maybe even the corporate sector, a lot of work happens in siloization. And there's nothing wrong with silos. I think it also brings about specialization in what you do. But what is required is connecting these silos. And that is why, in order to connect, you need to have a more standard way of doing things so that you are able to understand the language. You're able to talk to each other. And that's where you begin to solve the interoperability challenges and the information asymmetry that comes about by way of lack of standards, by way of this siloed working. So wherein all of us are experts in our domain, understand our field very well. But when it comes to communicating with the next department or the next person, that's the challenge that we need to address by way of standards. And they are very, very critical for data-driven governance, because eventually, when we talk about improving city livability, when we are talking about improving quality of life, when we are talking about improving economic opportunities of cities, or when you're talking about improving sustainability, you need to have the right kind of evidence that tells you on what level of maturity you are, what are the gaps in your field of work. And once you understand that gap, then only you will be able to address those issues or mitigate those challenges. And that's where standards play a role in improving the ecosystem that leads to data-driven governance. And what are the initiatives that we took in the Smart Cities mission? Starting with the Data Smart Cities strategy in 2019, which talked about the 3 Ps of people, process, and platforms, and how to institutionalize the culture of data in our cities. Started talking about addressing the issue of understanding data readiness by a data maturity assessment framework, culminating into an urban digital mission. And this urban digital mission seeks to take citizen services, the e-governance services that we see in some of our cities across all the 4,800 plus cities in India. Talking about scaling up your ICCCs to more cities, the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, where even the physical layer today is a challenge. You have network issues, you have lack of full physical network. And you have also got limited resources available with you by way of finances, by way of technical manpower, by way of capacities in all shapes and forms. So how do you address that? That's what the NUDM is trying to seek to do. The India Urban Data Exchange, a fantastic program which allows seamless exchange of data to take place. Several use cases that have come up, in fact, with the ICCCs, with the IOTX program, with the AI initiative, the AI strategy, which is talked about below. We have come to close to 450 plus use cases that have been documented in smart cities today. But the idea is that all these use cases have to start flowing from one city to other. And whenever somebody wants to do something, then they don't need to look at things afresh, because there's already some learning which is available in the mission. Moving in the journey of open data to a journey of high value data sets, that's where IOTX comes in, and eventually to data monetization. Creating an urban data bank, that's what Amplify is all about, an assessment and monitoring platform, wherein we try to collect relevant data points for all cities across 14 sectors. An urban data bank that will create data spaces across sectors like mobility, energy, and whatever urban sector or urban domain you're interested in. That's what Amplify will seek to do. And basically having a procurement strategy for startup procurement. That's something which is a big challenge. We talked about this even in 2019 when I was here, on how we are trying to crack this. And actually we have done that with procurement already taking place under the City Innovation Exchange and the Smart Procure guidelines that the Smart Cities mission has rolled out. So we have been able to successfully test and implement it. So all this is incomplete without the smart city standards work that we are trying to do here. And in line with the theme of this conference today, I would just like to share with you some of the important efforts that we've made and what is the way forward for us, wherein organizations like CDOT and other standard development organizations will play a very pivotal role. We are working on standardizations of technology components, be it on ICT, reference architectures, IoT standards, standardization of processes, because in cities, when you're looking at governance, these processes are very important, that we need to have clear flows, mechanisms on how things will move about. Standardization of terminologies and semantics, the taxonomies that go into creating a data ecosystem when you're talking about various governance applications. So what kind of terminologies will be used so that when you're talking about benchmarking, when you're talking about comparisons between two different cities or two different users, whether you'll be able to do that or not. The KPIs, how do you standardize the performance management measurement parameters? Capacity building for standards adoption. This is something that we are really focusing on right now, because it is so important to basically help people understand why a standard is required, and not only the government stakeholders, but also from the industry. So you have to work together in a collaborative manner. So collaboration is going to be very important for us. From all these stakeholders who are shown in this map, be it the industry partners, be it the cities, be it the standard development organizations or the government ministries, they all have a role to either sensitize or evangelize each other. And what we have achieved so far with our partners like CDOT, TSDSI, like BIS, with the IOTX work that we are doing, the National Urban Digital Mission Standardization efforts, we have come out with several reference architectures on digital infrastructure, on ICT, reference architecture for IoT, which contextualizes one M2M specifically for the smart cities. And like I said, smart city is just a name. Eventually, any city can basically adopt these standards, and unified data infrastructure for data layers, GIS architecture, data privacy assurances, and there are several more which are already under works. In NUDM, we have published 6 service standards on municipal governance, wherein a reference architecture has been prepared. Creating a taxonomy for property tax, which is one of the most difficult and most important stream in the urban local body. Water and sewerage, the knowledge standards for those. How do you issue trade licenses? So what kind of taxonomies you need to have? What kind of standardization work you need to do when you're rolling out e-governance services in cities? That is the work that we're working on under M2M. And how does this get done? So a typical scenario is that you do have an ecosystem of multiple vendors, which is very, very heterogeneous. You have several data sources, diverse applications and diverse creators, and diverse service providers. So the need is to basically integrate these devices, allow data integration to take place, application integration to take place, and service integration to take place. So all these works that we are trying to do by way of LWM2M or last mile through BIS, the IUDX, Urban Data Exchange, that standards we are working with BIS again on application integration, or for UIDI, UPI integration with the applications that we are trying to develop under NUDM or under any other program. The India architecture that we're trying to imbibe as part of the core principles of driving all our technology and standardization work. This is how we want to go forward. And of course, when you're looking at IoT being core to the smart cities infrastructure, and there are also emerging technologies like 5G, which is in India, and how it is going to affect us. I mean, it has got so much of potential, especially in smart cities work. It can transform the lives of so many people. The opportunities in healthcare by way of having sensors getting deployed in the cities, by way of opportunities in the field of education, public safety and disaster management by having intelligence on real-time intelligence, early warning systems, relief dispatch, and how 5G can really play a role in this, on water and wastewater management, and overall environmental mitigation measures, the climate action that where 5G can play a role. I think these are things that we need to work together on as a community of stakeholders from the government, from the industry, from standard development organizations, civil society, or the startups. We all need to work together on see that how we can positively impact the lives of our people. And the plan is very simple. First, have policies and ease the regulations, wherein the government will have to actively work with its community of stakeholders and other participants from the citizenry as well. Have documentation which becomes more standardized, like the model RFP document that we have developed for the smart cities, ICT and ICCC deployment, which imbibes all these standards, which imbibes the best practices that are there, which gets updated very periodically. So periodical updation of these documents becomes very important. And its adoption by the cities and the states is the second biggest challenge where the government is trying to move forward with. Building use cases. And I think having a use case lab for interoperability, for testing and trying these new solutions becomes very, very important. How cities can be those platforms that can work as living labs for testing these use cases, for demonstrating these benefits of IoT-based devices, and handholding, because the biggest challenge today is that there may be a lot of intelligence here sitting in the center or maybe sitting in CDOT, but when you try to connect to your users, you probably will hit a wall if there's no capacity there. Capacity by way of people, by way of finances, by way of understanding on the topics that you're talking about. All these abbreviations that I used, I'm sorry, but being a non-technical person, maybe there's some of those abbreviations even I'm not very clear about. So that's where we need support of our partners like CDOT, TSDSI, and other industry support. Let's try and test out some of these pilots in our cities. I just had a discussion with the director before this session, and wherein there are certain plans that we can do with our cities. How we can harmonize these products in a way that industry adopts these standards that we are working on. Because at the end of the day, the standards should be adopted. Otherwise, it's all a paperwork. How do you have a plan for backward integration? A lot of investment has already taken place in cities. We're talking about $2 billion worth of investment. That should not go redundant. So how do you make your future roadmap in a way that it also takes into account your legacy systems or the systems that have been deployed? And technology, though it is changing at a very fast pace, but I don't think we should ever forget the cost economics of it all, because otherwise it will all come to nothing. And having implementation guidelines, because it's not only about what needs to be done, but how it needs to be done. So what is the step-by-step iterative process that an implementing agency or a user needs to go into to actually do this work is going to be very important. And taking back from the ground is going to close the feedback loop that helps you improve the work that you do with regard to standards development. I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for a patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable insights. I would now request Sri Ravi Kumar, Senior DGM, Bharat Electronics Limited, to share his talk on Indian smart city implementation towards standardization. And I would also request the people who are sitting on the back, please come forward.
Good morning to all. I thank Rahul Kapoor for his presentation, and what I want to now presenting is more or less aligned with what he's talking about. And then now I want to give you actually what is the real scenario in the smart city scenario, that is what is happened at present. Maybe they have already working for the standard, but at present, just what is their status, I will just discuss. No, it's not moving, sir. So anyway, smart city, I think you all know the definition. I did not do much on this thing. So these are all for the people who are not familiar with smart city. It is actually a centralized platform where all the supporting infrastructure will be digitized and integrated to a command and control software. So this is how it will look. So there are maybe 21 use cases yet to ensure, but depend upon the city, the use cases will be different. And then this is one more way of showing the interfaces. And these are the under smart cities, whatever you are already knowing about. So basically what I am talking in this session is, the smart city has got two portions. One is, if you see the connectivity portions, and then there is a middleware in that one. The middleware is where the ICT platform will sit. And then there is a top, and that one will be the application which is sitting. So below there is IoT connectivity. So that means the three layers we can think in this direction. So only three layers plays a very important role. Now, what is the issue at present situation is, suppose you see the middleware, and then there is an IoT layer here. Now assume that one there is a smart transport. Assume that one there is, for example, the environmental management system. So there are a lot of IoT devices, but these IoT devices is not hitting now at present the middleware directly. Now what is happening, these IoT, whatever is there, since there is no standard, it is directly going to the application which is running on top of the, is a separate application. So the middleware as such now as using as an independent agency just to display or collect the information from the other softwares and using. But it is occupying, from the space angle, it is occupying a lot of memory, a lot of infrastructure, computers, etc. But no traffic is hitting the IEEE platform. So that means the application, suppose a solid waste management application will directly take the IoT data from the sensor. Then it is processing. Through API connections, only the main information will be reaching to the middleware. And just it is playing like a displaying the information. Not much has been done in that one, neither in case of AI or MI application or anything, just it is like a displaying the information. So actually, in technically what should happen in other countries as a standard is that one, all the IoT data should go to the middleware directly. Middleware will process. On top of the middleware, then the application should run. So what is the advantage of doing this one is that now the vendor A, for example, let us consider a street light. A vendor A who is having a street light, for example, one vendor A, he will send the data in his own protocol. Vendor B in his own protocol. So now if I want to change vendor A to vendor B, it is very difficult process because there is no interoperability between this thing. Suppose if I define the standard, for example, the street light means in this format, in this way, in this semantic ontology, you have to send the data. That if you fix it, any of the startup or any of the new vendor can adopt that one and can that will form an interoperability easily, because everything will directly hit the southbound traffic, and then that will be collected to the middleware. So that means the interoperability will be established, and then it will enhance the computation. So many of the startups in this regard, they can participate and then use this data. And then once if it comes to the top layer, if that standard also has been defined, then the vendor A, solid waste management, who is developing application, if he is not able to perform properly, if he is not able to satisfy the requirement, then the vendor B can easily replace. So that means that I can switch over from A to B from the southbound and the northbound, both sides. So this has got the greatest flexibility possible in the smart city. So because of this, we can gain a lot of advantages in any angle we look into it. Now, what the present scenario is that one, the vendor locking is taking place. So that means if one vendor has issuing the standard, the other vendor, he cannot comply with that one. So now we have to go to for him only to increase more street lights or something like that. So this is a major problem at present in the smart cities. So this is a typical use case in any of the cities. We can see this more or less the security side, and then the other side, there is a standardization already happening, and then it is more or less is okay. But only in this side, the application side and the IoT side. If you see the top side, different applications are running, you can see, and that one, it's all are independent. So it is connecting to the middleware. So this is the issue which has to be solved by one method is one M2M standard, and then the semantic standard. So these two should come into picture. So sometimes it plays a very negative effect. For example, assume that in a city there are 20 traffic signals is there. 5 from one vendor, 5 from one vendor, another 5 from vendor. We want to create a uniform corridor, for example, a green wave from A to B. But at that case, what happens is that there is no central software, because each 3 version has got its own software. Connecting and making a pathway is almost impossible at present. So there is no interoperability. So if you define the semantic model for the traffic signal, this is the way you have to send. That is already there in the advanced countries. So then any traffic controller from any software can be controlled and interchange the data. So this is what the standardization is missing at present city. So from the implementation side, this is the cost breakup. You can see that one, the field implementation plays a very important role. That is a lot of cost there. And then since we are repeating, for example, the IoT, even though the middleware, we are not, traffic is not hitting the middleware, for that we are spending the server cost, memory cost, all the cost, and then the cost for the IoT, everything we are paying money from the smart city angle, but we are not using. So that is the list of this one. So this comparing this one with the PC operating system, just I am showing an analogy here. Assume that there is a PC operating system. Now somebody want to develop a memory interface. Now all the standards has been defined in the memory interface. So anybody can make the memory interface, and then he can easily interface with the PC. There is no need of any other third-party permission or anything. That it will be straightforward application. Similarly, in the top on the above the operating system, anybody can develop the application. So in the same standard, if you translate it into the smart city domain, so middleware, the top layer interface, if you define, and from the IoT angle, if you define the interface, make it as a standard, then anybody can use this platform and then develop the application. This will make the things very easy. So these are the benefit of the standardization, as I explained you at present, that it will pay a level filing field, and then a lot of opportunity for startups and all those things it will provide. And then there is a lot of flexibility, and then it will enhance the creativity of the people. So open standard is required because standardization bring the benefit like vendor locking, and then the portability across the various systems. So these are the modularity, and the true innovations, all those things is the benefit of the standardization. Present smart city implementation, this is missing. Maybe it will be taken care in the future. And these are the things we suggest that in the new incoming applications, identification of missing standard, and then defining the method of performing the gap analysis. So, as I told you, and then this is one example. Just I want to show it to you in the Internet Protocol of Smart Object. For example, if the temperature means that when there is a chip ID number has been given, then IPS4 standard pressure sensor means 3302. Anybody sent in that format, you can utilize that and then consume that data. So like that for all the parameter, from the solid waste management to traffic signal to everything, if you define in this format, then it will easy to make things work. So the easy thing is that one capex and opex, the maintainability will be very easy by doing this one, because many times what happens, the vendor, because of some reason, he may close the shop or something like that. So that since the standard has been already established, the new replacing with a new vendor will be very easy. At present, it is a difficult task. So this is, as I gave to example, in the traffic signal, the problem what we're facing is that one, if you want to create a synchronized corridor, ambulance priority, for example, is difficult at present scenario, because the one controller cannot communicate with the other controller. So this is one way of representing, as I told you, three important application at the top and the IoT device in the middle. So these two standards we are suggesting, the top and the bottom. So these are the one M2M already, I think now standard as coming into this thing. This has to be adopted, and then the ontology standard also has to be come into place. So in conclusion, if these two standards will be implemented, there is a lot improvement, and then the cost advantage come into the future smart cities. So this is what I want to conclude from this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I would now request Mr. Seongwon Jung, KT, South Korea, to share his talk on 1M2M based smart city implementations. He'll be joining with us online.
Hello, everyone. My name is Seongwon Jung, working for KT. I'd like to talk about 1M2M smart cities in Korea. Before I talk about the smart city deployments in Korea, I'd like to share several steps in Korea, how we are developing our 1M2M ecosystem, so it affects the 1M2M, the other deployments, including smart cities. So this is from the last year, and this was the first 1M2M International Hackathon to help developing 1M2M ecosystems globally. And before this event, we have been throwing the developer event for 1M2M with the KT open source implementation Mobius, the Mobius developer event domestically in Korea. But since last year, we've been holding this event as the international hackathon to help 1M2M ecosystem. And yeah, there are the award ceremony. the exhibition hall to see all the project outcomes for all the participants. So that was interesting. And here's the link for you, so you can just go to the YouTube video for the award ceremony this year. And also, this is the 1M10 products in Korea. And since last year, also this year, very recently, there has been the IoT handbook published in Korea, and this is for 2023, but it has been published like a couple of weeks ago. And here's the link for the English version for you, and here's the version for the Korean version. And there are many products, and since this is PDF, and you can just search for the keyword 1M2M, and that's a bit strange.
would like to invite Sririndam Bhattacharya to give us the menu to our speaker Rahul Kapoor, Director MOHUA. He has to leave for a meeting. So we'll be joining the panel discussion after tea break.
Am I audible? Audible? Give me the presenter. वहाँ से दे दीजिए प्रेजेंटर राइट प्रेजेंटर राइट दे दीजिए
I would now request Dr. D. Vasudevan, Technology Head, Varanasi Smart City, to share his talk on Varanasi Smart City.
Right. Good morning, and thank you, CDOT, for this opportunity. You have been listening to the Director of Smart City, Rahul Kapoor, this session, who gave a complete overview of what a smart city is and what all the Government of India Smart City Mission is trying to achieve. Mine would be a kind of a one of the city case. So you could take it as a case study of the Varanasi. For those who are not aware, there are 100 smart cities selected in India. And I come from Uttar Pradesh, which has got 10 smart cities. And Varanasi is one among them. I don't want to say about the geopolitical importance of Varanasi, which you are all already aware. So we need to perform or otherwise we will perish. So what we did in Varanasi, it would be an interesting case study. And very interestingly, like Rahul Kapoor sir also touched, very often people come and ask me, sir, you are from smart city. Where is the smart city coming up? A lot of public there, even top level politician, once even the minister, one of the ministers has asked me, where are you building a smart city? They think that smart city means another city is built in a smarter way because the existing city is, in their opinion, not smart. So they think that's a new development, like because there is a reason for that. Like Malaysia, when they had this there's capital choke, so they built all together a new capital city. But I don't know how many of you know, Putrajaya. So I happened to visit and speak in one of the conferences. Altogether a new development, and everything was new and smarter there. So maybe people have that kind of notion. But in the case of Varanasi, which is also known as Banaras, also known as Kasi, we adopted what is called a retrofitting model. We cannot change because the city has got its own religious and mythological and importance, and millions of people come there. So to convert that age-old city, they say it's 5,000 years old, some say even more than that. Even any historical document, you would find the mention of Kasi or Banaras there. So that seems to be one of the oldest city known to the civilization, known for very narrow lanes. Some lanes are just 2 feet, 2.5 feet wide. How do the people live there? That they still live there, and a lot of millionaires and billionaires live there. A lot of houses, population. So how to retrofit that city and make it using the technology somewhat smarter, I would say. It's not a so I would show you some good pictures and explain about what all we attempted to do, and we, to a large extent, we have been successful. So the mandate for developing a smart city got from the Smart City Mission Government of India. There is a directorate, and there are 100 smart cities being governed by them. And every state has got their own state smart city mission also. So, and each smart city has to essentially have what is called an ICCC, Integrated Command and Control Center. That was a very good decision. So they made it, every city should have essentially this. Because everything, all the IoT things, all the smart things are happening. This is the nerve center of that. So I'm going to explain to you through some pictures and what all we did in CASI, Integrated Command and Control Center. They're essentially intelligent traffic management system. The city is known for traffic congestion, even now. To a large extent, we try to give comfort to the system. And solid waste management system, another major problem for the city. Of course, the integrated geographical information system, it is a cross-cutting technology. Every technology needs it. So you are able to see it location-wise, spatially. Environmental management system. And I would like to highlight an excellent opportunity we got for using the KCCC during the COVID time. And as the director has already, IUDX, Indian Urban Data Exchange, it's a very good initiative by the government, especially the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. So we were lucky one to be one of the pilot cities to do that experiment. And I will also do some more smart apps we have developed, a geospatial hub, a tourist pass system, and digital twinning project. So in the smart city mandate, as I told you, it talks about smart solutions. You have to essentially have smart solutions as part of your smart city initiative. So we had to develop technology, infrastructure, wherewithal, applications to do that. The advantage of the integrated command control centers, hitherto cities and the city administrators used to have a very, very static data. Earlier paper data, then they used to have databases in silos. Each department used to have their own database, but nothing was dynamic. The data was not dynamic. If you ask why this data is not matching, they say, sir, this is 2011 census. Unfortunately, we are still living with 2011 census. 2022 we are in. So we don't have, then you interpolate it. Then all other data, sir, ye 6 mahine pehle ka data hai. This is 2 years old data. This survey was done, sir, in 2018. So this is what we have from all people, technology people, or statistical people. And the city administrators were dependent on that. The one difference is in ICCC, it is a dynamic data. The real-time data picked up by the sensors, what's happened in few minutes ago or what's happening right now, you have the data in front of you in a digital format, in a standardized format. You are able to visualize it through GIS, what's happening, where it is happening. Then you take the decision. The decisions are more meaningful. You are able to solve the problem. That is the cross-cutting difference between the integrated command and control sort, a well thought of initiatives. So I will show you a few examples of that. This is the view of the CASI Integrated Command Control Center, both inside and outside. And we have a very powerful state-of-the-art data center hidden below the video wall. The huge video wall is there. Many people don't know. So there is a huge data center running. So this data center is up to date, latest technologies. Even the state, other than these smart cities, the state data center is not so modern and capacity. So we also have the disaster recovery, both physically as well as in the cloud in Bengaluru. And the main functions are in our smart city. Smart city can do different functions. The ICCC is capable of doing multiple functions. So what we have chosen based on the city's need is intelligent traffic management system, solid waste management system, environment management system. Somebody talked about, I think Ravi said talked about smart light also. So that also we have it in CASI. And of course, the GIS as a cross-cutting technology, it integrates all the systems are sitting on the top of a GIS. And we have few mobile apps and help desks and service centers. I will tell you when it comes to COVID a little bit more about the ICCC. So we have speed violation detectors, red light violation detectors. They are all sensors. automatic number plate recognitions at 21 junctions. And using this system, the system can automatically detect the vehicle number, go to the database of the central government Vahan database and NIC database, and create a e-challan to the defaulter and automatically generate an email and SMS and send the challan. So there is no manual intervention is there, but manual intervention is also possible. A traffic police is sitting up manning this. Then in addition to that, this is coupled with the public address system at 55 locations and variable messaging system. These are all again integrated with the intelligent traffic management system. The traffic police sitting here could display like an intelligent transport systems, what is happening to a particular messaging board, what's happening about any diversion, any blockage. So sitting from the central command and control center, similarly make announcements. And there are multiple usages for this VMS and public address system integration. We used in different ways, especially COVID was a very good example and opportunity for us to try out the many things. We used it for sending different messages for COVID management, for spraying, for so many things. It was really unbelievable how